Employment law is a huge area of the law. There are people who specialize in this for their entire lives and do nothing else. There are law school courses. You can take 1, 2, 3 semesters of different employment law topics. So you could be learning about this stuff for years. If I was going to cover the entire length and breadth of the topic, it could be a 50, 80-hour course. And so what we're going to do is concentrate on the practical and specific things that are useful for people who might be hiring one employee. So you might be a freelancer and finally you decide that I can't use a contractor anymore, I need an employee. Or you are a startup and you have a co-founder that you're working with, and if you have a co-founder, that means that you have an employee, and you are an employee yourself. So what does that situation look like? Finally, let's say you're a startup and you already have yourself and your co-founder, but you might be expanding and hiring 1 or 2 other people. And so what's the practical information that you can use that you can get out of a course like this? And so let's jump right into it and talk about hiring employees generally. So hiring an employee is a complicated process for an individual or a startup. It's much more technical and requires a lot more knowledge than hiring an independent contractor. And so I have another course about hiring independent contractors, and as you might learn in that course, you'll see that it is relatively straightforward, actually, because independent contractors are their own businesses. And so imagine you're hiring a plumber. It's not very difficult to hire a plumber. You go to the phone book, you figure out what plumbing company is in your area and is cheapest, and you hire that person. And so that is relatively the same process as it takes to hire an independent contractor for your own company, because that's what you're doing when you're hiring a plumber. But not everyone can be an independent contractor. It's a very, very narrow definition, and as you'll learn more in that course, you'll realize that there are very, very few people who are actually considered independent contractors. And so if you do hire someone as a contractor and they're misclassified as a contractor because there should be an employee instead, you run into a lot of issues. So at this point, by the time you're listening to this, you probably at least know the difference between a contractor and an employee, and you are ready to take the step to hire that employee. If you're hiring multiple employees or even one, it's inadvisable to do this on your own. And so a lot of my courses are all about taking the law into your own hands, or at least being able to give yourself self-help better, and if not, being able to empower yourself to hire a lawyer and know what that lawyer specifically needs to do so you don't get overcharged or anything like that. But hiring employees is a really complicated process. There's a lot of different statutory laws. There's laws continuously change based on how big your company is. And so you're never going to be able to do it all by yourself. But you can use this information, and I think it's really helpful information to use when you rely on the types of people that small companies like yourself or individuals like yourself rely on. So these are human resources professionals, outsourced human resources, business management companies, employment attorneys, or a combination of these things. So if you're used to working for large companies, you'll realize that they might have one or several people working in something called a department called human resources. And what human resources does is it maintains compliance with the various federal and state and even local sometimes employment laws. These people are usually experts in those topic areas, and they do so at a lower rate than an attorney might, and they handle issues between employees. For example, if employees are having internal conflicts with one another, if there are sexual harassment or discrimination allegations, and all of the things that a dedicated human resources department does is try to keep a company out of trouble in terms of all of the different employment laws. So they try to stop a discrimination claim before it happens. They try to make sure that all of the immigration I-9 forms are filled out and in compliance. They try to make sure that everything is up to date, that there's an employment handbook. But the problem is that you don't have the money to hire a human resources department. You just might need to hire one person, so that might be out of the question. You are your own human resources department. Outsourced human resources. And so there are a lot of companies online and otherwise that do things like collect immigration forms, collect employee information. There are individuals who will not necessarily act full-time in a human resources capacity, but you might be able to hire part-time to come in, get you back up to compliance, and then leave again. So these might be consultants. These might be part-time workers. So just like you can get a part-time accountant to come in every week or so and do your books and things like that, you can get a contracted person to do that. A business management company. A lot of the people that I represent as an attorney are entertainers, and as a result, they typically spend most of their time working on the creative part of what they do, and so they have a business management company that takes over the economic side of what they do. And so in exchange for a percentage of their income typically, or a flat fee, but usually a percentage of your income, these companies they do accounting, they make sure that investments are going correctly, they provide advice in terms of how money should be used, and most importantly, they, at the end of the day, are the people where the buck stops in terms of compliance. And so they might either encourage you to get some sort of outsourced human resources person part-time, or they might handle that type of thing internally. Every business management company is different. And so startups, individuals can move their operations inside of business management companies, and in exchange for some sort of percentage of their revenue, they can feel more safe. Employment attorneys. So attorneys generally work at a per hour basis, so $300, $400, $500 per hour. And so employment attorneys are generally your both first line of defense in terms of they're the easiest to find and hire. It's more difficult to hire a business management company. It's definitely much more difficult to hire human resources. And so these are attorneys are typically the first people you talk to when you're trying to get into compliance with employment laws. But they're also probably the most expensive. And so an attorney is really great for drafting employment agreements, which we'll talk about later. An employment attorney is really good for initial consultation, and so telling you exactly how these laws work and which ones you need to worry about, which ones you don't, which hopefully this course will go over in detail. But overall, you shouldn't necessarily rely on your employment attorney who's charging his or her hourly rate to consistently keep you in compliance, because then your bill will skyrocket. And so we'll talk about later how you can save money and things like that with your attorney. But oftentimes at the end of the day, people are working with a combination of these things. So initially you might go to your employment attorney who can make sure that all of your contractors are still contractors and make sure all of your employees are classified correctly. They can come up with all of your employment contracts. They can come up with your offer letter templates, which we'll talk about later, offer letters. And then your attorney typically works with the business management company, or is called on by the human resources as necessary when something is outside of what these types of people can do. So what this course will be is an overview of the process, hopefully from beginning to end. Again, it's a work in progress. We're always going to be adding to it. Every month there's going to be new content. And so hopefully you can get in while the course is inexpensive. And so as the course becomes more and more expensive, you can get a lot of value out of it, because the course is going to be more expensive every month, because it's going to have a lot more content in it. Its goal is to encourage you to take all these tasks on, but it's driven by the practical reality that most people don't have the resources to bring on the people above. So as I was saying, I understand at the end of the day that me telling you that you probably shouldn't try to mess with any of this stuff on your own is difficult, because at the end of the day, you need to save money. You need to spend the money that you have on your core business, not on hiring any of these people, and then you can worry about the fallback later. But you should also know the consequences of taking certain actions, and you should know when it's probably worth your time and effort to spend the money earlier on these types of people rather than do it yourself. And finally, as I said, I hope this course is going to be useful to save money if you decide to hire any of these people, because you'll understand these issues, you'll understand how to make high-level decisions, and finally, you won't be sold snake oil and upsold into anything that you don't need. All right, thank you very much. My name is Sean Spalding. I'm an intellectual property lawyer in Southern California, and if you have any questions at all or comments, please add them to the discussion section in the course, or send them to me by email. You can reach me at the email on the top left of your screen, sean.a.spalding@gmail.com, and I hope you have a great course. Thank you.